Good afternoon, everyone, and as usual, good morning or good evening for those coming from other time zones. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to a new EU DisinfoLab's webinar, the first one after the summer break. I hope you have enjoyed your summer holidays and recharged your batteries. My name is Raquel Miguel. I'm part of the EU DisinfoLab's research team, and I will be moderating our session today titled Synthetic Propaganda, Generative AI and the Future of Political Communication with Marcus Bösch. This session is special not just because it's the first one of the season, but also because we have a debut presentation of our report. And since the report is just available in German for now, today's webinar is a fantastic opportunity for non-German speakers to know about the content. Marcus Bösch, thank you for accepting our invitation and also for this premiere.
Thank you.
Before leaving the floor to our speaker, let me remind our audience that EU DisinfoLab is a non-profit organization gathering knowledge and expertise on disinformation in Europe. We host a fantastic annual conference that this year will take place in Ljubljana, Slovenia, on the 15th and 16th of October. Registrations are really going fast, so those who want to attend should register ASAP. A few details more. This year we are hosting a pre-conference workshops on the 14th of October. The first one, how to protect an election, is full, but we just announced a second one on disinformation in Sri Lanka, and there are still spots available. So don't miss the opportunity and register ASAP. In addition to the conference, more regularly we host webinars with the aim of giving voice and visibility to the excellent work that is being done by many experts in the field. As our faithful audience may already know, the sessions are recorded and the playback are available on our YouTube channel. A few more reminders about this webinar. First, you can subtitle this conversation in your preferred language thanks to an AI-driven tool. To activate it, all you have to do is go to the caption section. The option marked with CC is located at the bottom left. Click on the tab, enable the translation option, and select your desired language. It's very simple. You can see the process on the screen. Second, for communication purposes and for the Q&A session, we will use Slido. You can open the app on your phone by scanning the QR code you currently see on the screen, or type slido.com in your web browser, and when requested, add the hashtag disinfo. Let's briefly practice how to use this tool by answering two questions. First, please tell us where are you joining us from today? And second, which sector you represent. Quite quick reminder for the latecomers, slido.com hashtag disinfo. Oh, so many places popping up: Switzerland, Vienna, Warsaw, Portugal, Brussels, a big representation from Brussels and from Germany now. And yeah, Paris, Ireland. So a lot of participants from Europe, I see, but also from Washington, DC, and yeah, so wow. Cyprus, Slovenia, Helsinki. Hello, everyone. Let's go to the second question to have a look at the sector that you represent and to have a better overview of your professional backgrounds. Okay, let's give you a couple of minutes. Maybe in the meanwhile, remember as well that you don't have to wait until the end to submit your questions. You can send them whenever you like during the presentation, and we will do our best to address them all during the Q&A. A big representation from academia, Marcus, and also from NGOs and civil society. Media are attending as well, and international organizations, institutions, and of course, business. Okay, many different backgrounds and locations for this webinar. And let's go to the topic at hand. Let's start by introducing our speaker. Marcus Bösch researches and publishes on topics such as propaganda, AI, and digital communication strategies, with a particular focus on TikTok and platform politics. He is also a consultant for media organizations, political parties, NGOs, ministries, and security authorities on TikTok. On top of that, Marcus is pursuing a PhD at the University of Münster and publishes the international recognized newsletter Understanding TikTok, which we are big fans of, by the way. He also teaches a visiting lecturer in the master's program Political Communication at Heinrich Heine University Düsseldorf. And he's here to present his paper, Synthetic Propaganda, the Use of Generative AI in Political Communication between Manipulation, Ethics, and Regulation. No doubt, Marcus, that the intersection between AI and propaganda is gaining traction. In an article published last week, the New York Times stated that the era of AI propaganda has arrived. And since a long time, we are observing that the danger of generated AI content goes beyond disinformation. Actually, what we see is that quite often the purpose of AI-generated content is not deception per se. But it doesn't mean that the use of that content in political communication is harmless. Quite the opposite. According to your paper, I'm quoting you, it has the potential to threaten democracy in ways that go beyond the spread of disinformation. That is why we wanted to highlight your work that expands the scope and gives us a broad picture of how generative AI is being used and misused in the political sphere. And without further ado, I give you a warm welcome and pass you the floor so you can elaborate on this. Looking forward to your presentation, Marcus.
Thank you very much, Raquel, and thanks to the entire DisinfoLab team. As always, let me just share the slides and then we just can kick it off. This is just Donald Trump sleeping, but we will jump directly to the first slide. Slides that include the word future are personally always suspicious to me, and we have the future of political communication on that one. But as famous science fiction author William Gibson once said, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So what are we dealing with? Things you might or might not have seen on the internet in the last couple of months. Like J.D. Vance memes challenging expectations of gender, fandom, and performance in his Sailor Moon cosplay outfit. We have Javier Milei, Argentina's president, challenging the law of physics. And we have Governor Gavin Newsom challenging the current US administration's policy of trolling. All these images, to my knowledge, have been fabricated using generative AI. Text-based prompts turning into artificial audiovisual content as a practice that has been applied by various political actors in the last month. Just to pick out one example, the supreme leader of Iran has posted AI-generated missile launches on his X account, a match for similar grotesques on the account of Israel's Minister of Defense. I've just taken these from a pretty good 404 media article. And of course, generative AI is not limited to static images. Let me present to you 3 distinct examples of synthetic propaganda in video form in order to define exact terms. Okay, I guess you get the vibe. All right, and another one. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything. Okay, enough. What are we dealing with? We have 3 distinct examples which have been defined with different terms. The one on the left with Emmanuel Macron, honestly, first time I saw it, I wasn't 100% sure. So this definitely goes as a deep fake, the term that was first used on Reddit in 2017 and is now employed both in media discourses and in regulatory frameworks, such as the EU AI Act. And according to that one, deepfakes are defined as AI generated or manipulated image, audio, or video content that resembles real people, objects, places, facilities, or events, which would falsely appear authentic or truthful to a person. I guess not many people, at least in our context here, would say that of the second video with Vladimir Putin dancing. So there's another term for low quality falsified media, and that's cheap fakes, but it depends on who circulates stuff as well, because the third example would qualify, at least circling back to Chapari 2024, as a so-called soft fake, manipulated media produced and or disseminated by candidates or their teams during election campaigns. And that one was taken directly from Donald Trump's Instagram account. All right, so we have a lot of fake going on here. And there's another term from Klinkewitz I found in FART from 2025, which is called slopaganda, a term that combines propaganda with a phenomenon of AI slop. And while this expression is pretty striking, there's a risk of conceptual overstretch, I'd argue, as the notion of slop has become increasingly blurred in recent debates and is now overloaded with everything we hate about the internet. As you might already tell from the first slide, I'm not very happy with these terms, and I can tell you why. Because the reactions to our AI-generated content show that recipients are increasingly responding with indifference. What matters less is factual accuracy, but rather whether an image conveys the right thing, a phenomenon that Jason Koebler describes as the entry point into the so-called fuck it era of AI slop. Because honestly, by virtue of its technical production, these products are always artificial, aka fake, and the dichotomy of true and false recedes behind its effective impact and political instrumentalization. Therefore, as many academics do, I'm suggesting a new term, and that's the term synthetic propaganda. I'm building up on the not more or less agreed on, but one of the big definitions of propaganda, the deliberate attempt to shape perceptions and influence the understanding of issues in line with the intentions of the sender, including here in this definition, generative AI content, because this term actually incorporates existing technical forms, but places a stronger emphasis on effective impact and the political instrumentalization. No worries, I'm not going to read out an entire paper to you. I'm just going to focus on the first research question here, and it's on what characteristics do synthetic propaganda contents exhibit and how are they employed by different actors. The whole phenomenon is pretty young, and this is definitely under-researched. So for the sake of this paper, I collected 1,498 posts by these three accounts. We have the US and we have Germany. We have Instagram for the first two examples and TikTok for the last one. And during January 20, day of the inauguration, and July 13, when I stopped scraping, I analyzed the synthetic contents that these accounts posted. And they represent different realms. Like real Donald Trump is obviously using his Instagram account for political reasons, but it's not an official one. He started with posting photos of his grandkids and has yet transitioned to, a full-blown political account. That said, posting photos of your grandchildren can always be an act of political communication, right? But it's not a real governmental official account like the White House's one. And to compare both of them, I choose an account that's more from the pre-political realm, not affiliated with a party, but a more privately run channel in Germany. So here are some first observations when analyzing these accounts. I'm just going to run through all three of them and then sum up the results. And that's the program for today. Okay. After the announcement of his re-election victory in November, but before his inauguration in January, real Donald Trump posted 2 generative AI images on December the 3rd. Interestingly enough, he just had a meeting with Mark Zuckerberg, who proposed to be his IA consultant. So probably that explains why this account posted these 2 examples on December 3rd. And what's interesting about both images is that they are anticipating the symbolism, narrative patterns, and the blurring of reality and imagination that then characterized postings during the first 6 months of Trump's presidency. Let's focus on meeting Elvis for now. Trump several times has not only praised Elvis, but he has compared himself with Elvis. So finally, in this black and white, authentic AI-generated photo, both of them meet. And Trump places his hand on Elvis' shoulder, staging himself as an authoritative figure who symbolically exerts control while absorbing the cultural radiance of the king of rock and roll. Elvis becomes a projection surface for nostalgia and the promise of a golden America. In this artificially constructed alliance, political authority and pop culture interlock. And both of these examples, like the one on the mountain with Canada, they demonstrate already how synthetic propaganda works. It condenses meanings through strong symbolism, constructs narrative patterns, and at the same time blurs the line between fact and fiction. And we will jump into that right now. These are 3 synthetically created images that were posted on Real Donald Trump in January, February, and March. Donald Trump is staged in different roles and symbolically charged with meaning. The first, which was not that much discussed in the media, recalls classic mafia or gangster films of the 1930s and 40s. And taken together, these images illustrate that Trump's ego staging does not operate through rational argumentation, but through visual rhetoric. By referencing these cultural archetypes, gangster, maestro, pope, he's portrayed as an untouchable and sacralized leader figure. So the political communication shifts away from the exchange of informed arguments toward mythical visual worlds that evoke emotions, mobilize loyalties, and of course, in the context of platforms, generate reach. I'm pretty sure most of you have seen the so-called Trump Gaza AI video. Nonetheless, for context, and because it's a unique thing on this account, it's the only synthetic video. I'm quickly going to play the video again, not in its entirety, but you get a glimpse.
Set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new life.
Okay, I guess we all get the idea. Interesting here is the notion of an AI spectacle. Reality, on the one hand, disappears behind an artificial world of propaganda, but nonetheless, it can only be understood with Trump presenting his real estate development plan for Gaza. Okay, so in this notion of the AI spectacle and something real that has happened, these merge and turn the entire thing in a situation where things could evolve, or maybe they will evolve. Nonetheless, it's beyond rational Realpolitik. His political program is narrated visually through phantasms, in which alligators in baseball caps guard prisons and pose with him for a press photo. And if you thought that the official White House account would be more decent, I have to disappoint you, because most of us will already have seen these ones. Yet again, 3 representations of the idealized leader to create an icon beyond democratic normalities. This opens up an imaginary space of possibilities, because these roles we see here, king, Superman, action hero, they extend beyond the presidency and must be read against the real political backdrop of an authoritarian transformation of the state. Only a few weeks later, Trump deploys armed soldiers to patrol the Capitol. The synthetic propaganda of the US government is not reduced to a single visual strategy. It operates with complementary modes, because alongside the heroization and iconization of the leader, there's the demonization and stigmatization of an outgroup, shaped through ethnicization and criminalization. Synthetic media are employed here for symbolic exaggeration. Wow, a lot of words. Aesthetically, these draw on the well-known Hope campaign from 2008, this stylized stencil portraits of Barack Obama, with the words progress, hope, or change. And this aesthetic is here transferred into an opposite propagandistic pattern, combined with terms such as rape or child pornography. Interestingly enough, while these images share a common aesthetic, they are individually designed beyond the similar stylistic elements, like an indication of synthetic production, since the tools used typically generate outputs that are alike, but not serially identical, as if someone had done them like with a program. So what we've seen here, 2 sides. And this complementary logic we can see again in these 2 AI modified memes. First, we have deported aliens versus President Trump, which draws on a popular Reddit format, 100 men versus a gorilla. And here Trump is playfully staged as a superhuman fighter who could take on not just 100, but allegedly 142,000 deportees. And the second is the so-called Ghibli AI effect, a viral trend generating figures in the style of Japan's Studio Ghibli. On the White House account, outgroup individuals are transformed into cartoonishly exaggerated crying figure, while Trump is depicted as an invincible hero. The opponents are infantilized, criminalized, and simultaneously trivialized through, in this case, cuteness. Deportations and state violence are thereby normalized and translated into digital pop culture. Both accounts demonstrate that synthetic propaganda operates both through iconic self-promotion and the demonization of political opponents and social outgroups. In the article, I do this test against the backdrop of ethical principles. By the way, they are all disregarded. And there are no forms of sanction that can be observed, neither from the platform themselves, nor by the EU AI Act. Let's jump over the ocean now, because while the accounts Real Donald Trump and the White House use synthetic media for propagandistic top-down communication, Doberman Chloe, number 1, is a bottom-up account located in the German far-right ethnic nationalistic spectrum. It seems to be privately operated and serves as a counterpoint to compare the regions and to compare the platforms. The majority of the synthetically generated video aesthetically on this account fluctuate between fantasy elements, platform iconography, kitschy forms of representation, and classic ethnic imagery. Recurring motifs include blonde children accompanied by eagles or Doberman dogs, female figures in national flags corresponding to an Aryan ideal of beauty, and scenes, we'll see these, that translate myth of victimhood, blood ties, or geopolitical alliances with Russia into mythically charged imagery and garnish them with emojis. The party political orientation is clearly recognizable. The caption include 304 mention of Germany's AfD, Germany's right-wing extremist party, 141 blue heart emojis used on TikTok in a political context as a pro-AfD symbol, and there are 304 German and 34 Russian flag emojis. And I give you an auto-visual idea what's happening in these videos because it's quite interesting. It's not only the visual layer, but they are accompanied by AI music and AI songs. And you can read the German song text here on that screen.
Flieg, mein Kind, über Stadt, über Land, über jedes Denkmal, sei stark wie ein Band. In deinem Herzen schlägt Deutschlands Blut. Spür den Stolz, die Freiheit, den Mut.
Okay, that was one video. During the research, I checked out roughly around 900 of these. The eagle representing a powerful German nation that can shoot light or laser or something, and the blonde Aryan kid with an AfD Superman cape. At first glance, these elements may be perceived as cringe or kitsch. There are others that include children riding on dogs but backwards. This may irritate, but they obscure the Völkisch extreme political program underlying the account. And I found the concept of cultural cringe very helpful here, which is found on social media platform, where class membership leads to ghettoization of contents from socioeconomic weaker sources. So this account demonstrates a specific aesthetic variant of digital fascism for a dedicated target audience. And these videos are characterized, obviously, by a high density of auditory and visual messages. And I'm going to dissect a couple of them in the coming minutes. The goal here is to always circle back from these kitschy first impressions back to the underlying narrative that can be tied back to these visualizations. And you have to keep in mind that these images here are part of pretty dense audiovisual products. So we start with the nation as body and symbol, and obviously we have three bodies here and a bit more. The concept of the nation as a body is a central component of far-right ideology. This includes the notion of the so-called Volkskörper, the national body. This one is aesthetically idealized, depicting as strong, pure, healthy, and mostly white. The woman is portrayed with blonde hair, fair skin, and blue eyes, the hair blowing in the wind, and the fist clenched. She embodies a stereotyped ideal of beauty, symbolically intertwined with national identity through the German flag as a second skin, in reference to the Germania depiction. The female body is staged as bearer of the nation. The man is presented as a heroic warrior and protector, his muscular stature and stern gaze accentuated by stark lightning, while the tattoos of the German flag and imperial eagle inscribe national identity. And then, obviously, we have a blonde kid situated in an archaic village scene before mountains. The imagery stages a hyper-real Völkisch narrative of pure origin and powerful nation, emphasizing homeland tradition and rootedness, translating typical far-right strategies into platform-compatible forms of synthetic propaganda, and of course, yet again, the eagle. That's one strategy that can be observed on this account. Another one circles all around the concept of the victim myth and the central motive of struggle. So the victim myth seeks to portray Germans or the far-right movement, or particularly individuals, as victims. It serves to deflect historical guilt and legitimize present actions. Interestingly enough, in one song that's underlying this video, there's the explicit message, Germany awake, fight, fight. And this slogan, Germany awake, in German Deutschland erwache, originates from the so-called Sturmlied, a text written by Dietrich Eckart around 1920, later popularized by National Socialistic propaganda, the Third Reich, and still used by right-wing extremists. So yet again, what might be seen as cringy content, including an eagle and a flag, has underlying narratives that can directly be tied back to right-wing extremists. In the middle, you can see Germany and the date of the federal German election, and yet again, it's all about fight. We have the same blood, we need to fight. The third one is the German-Russian relationship, interestingly enough, because this one is often strategically exploited by the far right, with Russia being portrayed as an authoritarian anti-Western countermodel and a potential ally. And on the account, yet again and again and again, it features several AI-generated visualizations of this narrative. Like you see the two kids, the German kid as the eagle, the Russian boy as the Russian bear. You see these Anna and Elsa-like image in the middle. And on the right side, we see Vladimir Putin playing a nice song for the Doberman. The Doberman, which is the recurring theme on this account, because in the non-synthetic videos, we see an actual Doberman. And this, yet again, shows the mixture, the sliding from reality into this AI fiction, because the Doberman that has been seen on one video, like lying around in a pretty basic living room, in this visualization is like the guarding dog of Vladimir Putin. Which political actor is to lead the liberated future of the German Volkskörper is made visually explicit on the account. It is the AfD, represented through its personnel. On the right side, you see leading figure Alice Weidel, shown in intimate interaction with the German eagle. The content of the entire account illustrates the status quo of a post-digital coexistence of synthetic and non-synthetic content. And just as described, the Doberman, which moments earlier rested in a monastery bedroom, soon afterwards appears as a digital guarding dog. On a symbolic level, a synthetically generated vision of the world is created, similar to Trump. It draws on mythical references to an imagined past, and the use of synthetic media here goes beyond the creation of spectacles. It's saturated with visual codes. It functions as a coherent propagandistic program. And all three accounts in all the three realms, they employ similar narratives. Idealization of leadership, the defamation of outgroups, and calls for violence, just as we've seen the fight. And this is one of my last points. These are not limited to mere phantasms intended as tongue-in-cheek entertainment, because the new media world of the so-called AI age is post-digital. We live in the online-offline nexus, and they cannot longer be conceived of separately. Trump published these plans for Gaza. then he publishes the video, even if he did not produce the video as a person, or the administration did not produce it. Nonetheless, they work together. So these fantasies must be taken seriously and considered alongside concrete coup plans or weapon discoveries within the far-right milieu in Germany. And the question now for us to discuss, besides other things, would be this one. Is it helpful if Democrats in the US try to troll Trump by fighting fire with fire? We will definitely see as more and more synthetic propaganda spreads on digital platforms. And with this, I would like to say thank you, play a last final video, and then I'm open to an informed discussion. Thanks. All right, that's it.
Thank you so much, Marcus, for this inspiring presentation and for this scary ending. It's time to start the Q&A session right now. As a reminder, please use the QR code to join Slido, or type slido.com #disinfo. We have around 20 minutes for questions, and at this moment we are almost 160 people in the room. So many people, many questions. Maybe we can start, Marcus. There are several attendees asking about the paper. Is the paper available, and can you provide a link? Maybe you can update them about the status of the publication briefly.
Absolutely. I wish I could just tap the button and send it all over as a PDF. Unfortunately, I just handed it in German for further review. So maybe it's going to be shredded apart afterwards, or it's going to even be better. As soon as it's done and published in German, I will for sure publish an English speaking version of that one, and we'll spread it all over. So it might take a little time. Some academics in the room, you know how it goes.
Okay, a bit of patience. Maybe let's start with a question from Pablo, that it's a bit philosophical. If generative AI can flood the infosphere with convincing political content, does the very idea of authentic political communication still exist? Or are we entering a permanent state of mediated spectacle where trust is impossible?
That's a very good one. And obviously, I don't have a clear answer because we're in the midst of it, and every single day brings new discussions and new empirical evidence. So, like a couple of days ago, someone threw out a garbage bag out of the White House, and later Donald Trump said, no, this was AI. Now, with the bombing of this Venezuelan ship, the Venezuelan government somewhat in return said, no, this one was AI generated. So yet again, we're in the post-truth era. Nonetheless, I think authentic political content is key and absolutely vital. To give you two examples, we've seen Emmanuel Macron being laughed about or mimicked dancing in the 1987 Voyage, Voyage disco video, right? The official account of the French president actually used snippets of this video owning the game to announce the Paris AI summit later. So they, on an authentic account, they said, okay, we've seen it, it's funny, but you know what? It's important that we discuss stuff like that. So let's go to the AI summit. And we've seen the same with the former German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who had been confronted with like topless bodybuilder images of himself. And yet again, in talk shows and on his TikTok account, he not only noted, okay, these are around, but he actually made fun about these attempts. So I guess it's in the way how you react to these new constraints, so to say, and how you position yourself in the entire authentic political communication game. But as always, we're not lost, but we need to adapt, I'd say.
Okay. Next question. Legislation. This is a hard one. How can we work on legislation as EU to tackle these challenges, especially as our societies are going to get older in coming decades? And older people are more prone to disinformation. I think there are related or similar questions in the chat as well regarding how synthetic propaganda is falling under the current legislation, such as DSA and AI Act. Maybe you can have some insights on this.
Well, there are several attempts to, or several regulatory approaches to that. We have pretty good community guidelines, and there is EU legislation with the EU AI Act and the DSA. Problem right now seems to be that we have the legislation, but nothing is happening. So it's the same on these both levels. With the community guidelines, we have content by Trump, the White House, and Doberman Chloe that definitely breaches the community guidelines. Therefore, it should be banned, or at least it should have like this stamp on it, AI generated. But this is just not happening. So currently, I'd argue more that the problem is not that we do not have the legislation or regulatory approaches, but it's a problem that they are not being pushed through. And I'm pretty sure more will happen there. On the other hand, academic research informs these legislations. And right now in the EU AI Act, there's a total focus on so-called deepfakes. And I think this is not a term that's particularly helpful because, as we've seen in the examples, it's not as if people would go like, oh my God, I thought Milei or Trump or whoever is Superman, but it's another strategy. It's trolling. It's like, yeah, they say what's out there. So the term deepfake and limiting legislation to the short phases of elections is not particularly helpful. So I think with these precise points, legislation needs to adopt.
Mm-hmm. Another question. A lot of your examples are about obvious caricatures of reality. Example, alligators wearing the ICE caps that appeal to emotions. But what about when the purpose is to deceive people into thinking someone actually did or say something?
That's a good one. I'd argue that the notion of affect and emotion is way stronger because we are living in the AI age now. So whenever something happens, someone is going to say, this is AI, and someone else is going to say, no, it's not AI. So while I get this point, and this is definitely a problem, I personally would focus more on this aspect of emotion and affect to avoid this dichotomy of truth and false, because I'm convinced that this discourse of truth and false is not very helpful in solving or tackling these issues. But I don't want to argue that this is not a problem, what you're describing, because this is out there as well.
There is a very interesting question about the audience. You mentioned the intended audience of this material being part of a certain socioeconomic group. Can you please say more about this point?
Yeah, that's a crucial one because we definitely need more research on that. I just observed while doing research on these different accounts, especially the German one, I observed that the makers of these videos, which seem to appear in their living room, in the place where they live, in the non-synthetic videos, this is a certain socio-economic group. and this is not like probably research, but it's not like, it's pretty low income, more East Germany connotated. And what I want to do is I want to do more research on that, because there's a certain aesthetic that feels a bit more like WhatsApp family chat or Facebook groups. It's not like cutting edge TikTok content. So to be honest, this is more like a hypothesis that I would like to dig in deeper.
And maybe a follow-up question related to the audience. Can we measure how audiences react to synthetic propaganda? For example, do they take the visuals at face value? What kind of emotions does this content evoke? And how does it compare to other types of communication? So measuring the impact to synthetic propaganda.
Yeah, that's a perfect one. And yet again, early days, we need way more research on that. And one thing which could be easily done and should be next on the list is just like analyzing the comments. Because in the comments, the comment threads I saw, hell lot of comments underneath these videos, thousands and thousands of comments. But most of the time, they're not discussing the aspect of AI. From time to time, you see like this more like innocent question, is this AI? If we see like a politician dressed as Superman, but most of the time it's more about emotion, like you are absolutely right, you are a strong leader, or you're stupid and I hate you. So this could be a very first pretty concrete step to analyze how audiences are reacting. Another important thing that could be very interesting from a communication studies aspect is, of course, seeing how much of this debate is disseminated via traditional public media. Many of these videos became huge because they were discussed in the New York Times and then discussed elsewhere. So this could be another angle or another take on analyzing how audience react to that. But I haven't seen research on that so far.
Okay, let's take another one. One of our attendees is asking for advice for his job. I'm trying to convince people in my NGO, we research hate speech and misinformation, disinformation, that synthetic propaganda is more dangerous than AI being used for classic disinformation. My efforts have been unsuccessful. What would you say to them?
I totally feel that point because I have been part of a 3-year research project on, so to say, classic disinformation. And I have the certain feeling or a sense that the entire disinformation community, or many of these, are not very happy with these words we have to describe the current situation. This entire mis and disinfo, which actually is pretty new. It has been around like 2014, 2017. I think this entire discourse is slowly coming to an end. With propaganda, it's a problematic term as well, but there's way more research on propaganda. And just as described in this presentation, maybe this can actually be a starting point for a debate in that NGO when you dissect examples. So I think this is building up on this whole true or false dichotomy, and I hope that this entire discourse is getting bigger. So fingers crossed.
I will pick up another one about how to respond to this phenomenon. Dear Marcus, you raised the question of whether we should fight fire with fire. But based on your research, are there alternative strategies that actually work to dismantle synthetic propaganda without resorting to the same arsenal?
I haven't yet got an answer, and I'm pretty not sure what to do. The material I observed is from the first half of the year, And this Gavin Newsom fighting fire with fire strategy is just a couple of weeks old. So we haven't yet seen if it worked, if that is a way to pursue. And honestly, I don't know yet. And I definitely, at this point in time, I don't know. We have to observe more, analyze more, and there need to be more ways to try and oppose this communication. Actually, I found this approach by Macron quite clever, taking something and then owning the game, at the same time somewhat trolling Trump, advertising the Paris EU AI summit. I think that was a quite informed, clever move. Not sure if it's going to be the only one.
There is a couple of questions related to the geographical scope of the use of synthetic propaganda and also the research around it. May I ask if future discussions on synthetic propaganda will include East Asian cases like China's propaganda campaign against Taiwan for a comparative study?
Absolutely. This is not a phenomenon that is in the least centered to the US or Europe. With this case, I was using a German example because I'm a German native, and I used Trump because I thought this one is really, really under-researched and super important right after the inauguration. But in India, in China with Taiwan, or in the whole Chinese media discourse, as far as I can see when you watch Chinese social media content, it's all over. So I'm pretty sure academia is a bit slower than media. I'm pretty sure that there will be more reports on that.
There is a follow-up question. To the best of your knowledge, to what extent has the synthetic propaganda been used in the context of current conflicts?
Okay, well, I just saw these two examples, like Iran, Israel, and of course, AI has been heavily used in Gaza. And my dear friend Tom Devon is working on a paper currently about the usage of AI in Gaza. So I'm pretty sure that there will be more papers out.
Okay, let's encourage the researchers in the room. There are two questions related with satire. So one reads, how does satire sit in the AI governance model of the EU? And adding an example, South Park. And another one, what are the underlying dangers of AI slop or propaganda being confused with mere satire?
These are very good questions. Honestly, I didn't check satire like in the EU AI Act. And satire is a recurring theme that is constantly discussed in the whole realm of, like, we have misinformation on one side and we have freedom of speech and satire on the other side. And sometimes it's just like hard to measure, because things, especially in the context of generated AI content, they are different things at the same time, which makes it pretty easy for people producing and posting stuff to just lean back and go like, this was just like a little bit of friendly satire. Don't freak out. With dissecting the German example, I just wanted to show that underneath this more maybe satire kitschy stuff is like explicit right-wing extremist content, and there's a clear line between the two. But yet again, of course, satire is a thing that, I'm repeating myself, needs more research in that context as well.
Okay, probably you are going to reply the same to the next one. You have already mentioned how difficult it is to measure the impact, but some attendees are asking specifically about measuring the impact in terms of shaping the political attitudes attitudes of the audience. So do you know of any research that investigates how effective is synthetic propaganda in this regard? And another related question, it's a typical academic question. What does your concept of synthetic propaganda add to the notions that already exist to describe the power of generative AI to shape political discourse?
Yeah, thanks for that one. I'm always back with two questions at the same time. Could you go back to the first one, please? Then I'm just going to read it and okay. Yeah, the effectiveness of the audience. Yet again, I have to repeat myself. I think it's early days. This is research that needs to be done. But I've been researching TikTok for the last couple years, and we still do not have proper studies how TikTok in itself is shaping the audience's political attitudes. So I guess this is a tough nut, and it might take a little while. I'm happy to get the opportunity to defend my term, synthetic propaganda. So with the terms at hand, deepfake, cheapfake, soft fake, they're all focusing on this notion of fake. My argument would be per se, because the AI, they are fake, and it's hard to focus on this dichotomy between truth and false when the whole notion of effect and emotion in the AI age, in my opinion, weighs way heavier. The other point is with synthetic propaganda, we can build up on the whole debate and the anti-discourse on propaganda. And synthetic is a term that is not as loaded as deepfake, and it leaves space and room for further technical developments while not focusing so very much on who did what and is that a cheap or a deepfake, but more on the whole notion yet again on effect. The problem to me is, how do you distinguish a deep and a soft fake if a deep fake turns into a soft fake? And how exactly do you differentiate between a deep and a cheap fake? I don't think that these solely technical terms make that much sense in the developments that we're seeing currently. I hope that was more or less clear.
I think this is a perfect clarification to wrap up. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time, and I am so sorry. Please apologize the audience for so many questions and answer, but this is a good indicator that the interest is sparked by the topic and to encourage further discussions. So thank you again, Marcus, for these exciting discussions and for such an informative presentation. I hope our audience has enjoyed and learned a lot. And as usual, we would like to get your feedback. Please fill in a writing survey after the webinar ends. You can also suggest topics to be covered in the next sessions. And before wrapping up, a quick reminder that the recording of this webinar will be available shortly on our YouTube channel. And that we will host more webinars, of course, in the next weeks. Next Thursday, Trisha Meyer will enlighten us about the very large platforms and search engines compliance of the European EU Code of Practice on Disinformation. And in 2 weeks, we will have an exciting webinar showing an update of the influence operation overload that now operates smarter, bolder, and powered by AI, with Alexandra Atanasova and Guillaume Kuster, who are 2 excellent researchers and also familiar faces in our webinars. Thank you again, Marcus. Thank you, Maria, our support behind the scenes. And thank you to everyone who attended. Have a fantastic rest of the day and see you soon.
Thank you very much.